Oh, can we have a light? Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, there we go. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma 'allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima tu'allimuna wa zidna min fadlika 'ilman wa ta'lima innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, this is going to be the last class for 2025. We still have about a third to go, a quarter to go. We're almost done. And if we finish things early, I can try to condense a little bit, because I know we've been going a long journey now, only in major sins. Again, what's the beauty of taking so long is that we should have a very thorough understanding of what we should avoid, right? So better, they say, دَرُ الْمَفَاسِدْ أَوْلَى عَلَى جَلْبِ الْمَصَالِحِ. In Arabic and in Islamic law, they have a saying. Islamic law gives priority that, what do they say? They say deflecting a harm takes precedence over attracting a benefit. Okay? Deflecting a harm takes precedence over attracting a benefit. That means if you can prevent, for example, some disease, it's better than doing an exercise to make yourself stronger in another way. If preventing monetary loss, it's better to try to prevent a loss than to try to gain a profit in something else. And in the same way, in Islam, we can speak a lot about good deeds. But if you have a good deed and you have these major sins, it's like you have a hole in the bottom of your cup. And so there are many people, subhanAllah, who have been doing good deeds their entire life. They're very religious people outwardly. But there is a major, sometimes some people have a small leak, you know. So if you pour tea, it'll still stay there for a while. It's just over time, but they're always filling up the cup. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's a leak. Only there's a leak at the bottom for some people who see, oh, there's a little leak here. But major sins are like these big holes that you can be pouring the tea from the top and it's just coming right out of the bottom. The good deeds you're doing doesn't hold. In other words, it doesn't look like the effect is coming. So mashallah, you're fasting your whole Ramadan, you're praying in the masjid, everything. But then this is where you get this idea of the ugly religious person. The ugly religious person. Not meaning look ugly by looks, but a person who is religious, but everyone around thinks they are a vile person. Most of all, their own family, the place where they work. Everybody looks at them and says, oh God, I don't want to be like, this guy. And then you give Islam a bad name, right? So if you cover these, inshallah, you'll be more religious, in my opinion, than 90% of people who are doing these, and yet they feel that they're doing religious things as well. First, do no harm, as they say in medicine. So we left off with one very important topic, and that's called an-namam. Okay, namima is defined, you could call it tale-bearing. Now, we don't say this in English very much these days. What it means is to take a piece of information from one place and to go somewhere else and share that information over there. And then maybe go to another place and spread that over there. It's kind of like gossip. Gossip and namima are very close, but it's not exactly slander. It could just be it could be a very neutral item of news, for example. In other words, you stir enmity between people. You make relations bad between people. Like a rumor? What's that? Humor? Humor? No, it's not humor. A rumor? No, a rumor, that's like gossip. That's like a rumor because you don't know if it's true or if it's not true. Okay? That's like gossip. Namima is like saying, namima would be like this. You learn something, let's say for example, you learn something from the mother's side of the family, okay? The wife's side of the family. And then you take it to the husband's side of the family, and they become upset because of this. Maybe it was nothing even, like, it could be as simple, let's say, who invited who on whose wedding or Eid or whatever it is, okay? And it could be something like that. So it's not a rumor, it's not like gossip, but you know you're doing it. Say, oh, we went to this party in this person's house. Oh, that was so good. You weren't there? They didn't invite you? They should have invited you. I thought you were coming. I didn't even know. Okay? No, facts are totally there. Facts are totally there. But it's not a rumor. It's just, okay, for example, but it's not even twisted. It's the exact information. It's just you're taking information from one group to another group to upset the other group or to make one of the two people feel bad. Okay? Let's say, for example, you had a problem at work today. Okay? So you spoke to your colleague about it. Then that colleague went and they told another colleague about what happened to you. Now, the other colleague, you didn't want anybody else to know. It's not a rumor. It's not untrue. It's not a lie. But you didn't want anybody to know. You got a bad performance review. You did bad on your test. Why is she going or he going and telling somebody else how you did on your exam? This is an example of saying, like, you're spreading information people don't like, right? Let's say a woman or a man was married previously. Now they have newly married, okay? So someone who knows them from their previous marriage comes to the new spouse and then drops little hints. Oh, yeah, his ex-wife used to always say this about him. Yeah, don't, huh? What? You know? So you're stirring up a pot. Now, this could be that the person you take it to, it makes them feel upset that they heard this now. So, oh, he got you that ring? Oh, yeah, his ex-wife used to like that kind of ring too. Or, oh, he took you to this restaurant? Yeah, he used to go there before with somebody else. Nothing. You know, or something like this. So immediately, the person you're taking the news to, they don't like it. Or sometimes someone tells about your how you did on an exam or your secret, and then you feel upset. So it could be, it upsets the one you're taking the news to or the one you're taking the news from. So the point is this. At the end, this person conveys this message, and when they're out of it, you made a problem between two people. Okay? And you know how often this happens when there is a job, a community, family, school. A lot of it is, oh, you know, she said this, he said this, oh, why did you tell this? So this is a very major thing, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did he say? وَلَا تُطِعْ كُلَّ هَلَّافٍ مَّهِينٍ هَمَّازٍ مَّشَّاءٍ بِنَمِيمٍ. And do not obey the despicable, vain oath taker, slanderer, going about with tales, the one who's walking around talking about everybody. So it is kind of close to gossip, but it's not slander. It's that person who has news about everybody. You know, like there's always somebody maybe in the family, they're like the news. Everybody's laughing, right? Because they're already the, oh, don't tell them. They said, one of the elders, and the beloved, respected elder, but they said this person is like the internet. If they know about it, everybody's going to know, right? And they're a beloved person. But some people also, they don't mean to do this, okay? So it's different if, you just by habit, you talk a lot, right? You talk a lot, and then by accident, you let something out. I'm talking about people who do this in a way to cause problems between people, right? Ali Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this is he said, لا يدخل الجنة النمام. لا يدخل الجنة النمام. Anyone who stirs up enmity between people by quoting their words to each other will not enter paradise. SubhanAllah. Someone who does namima will not enter Jannah. It's such a serious thing. You know why? Because oftentimes you can, for example, you can really break a relationship based on what you say. You have to be very, very careful, right? It could be something as simple. It could be something as simple as, what would be an example? Like, you can just destroy people's lives with this. You could say something like, oh, you go to a woman and you say, oh yeah, your husband went out with his friends, but do you know there was also a female there in their gathering? Okay? Immediately man comes home. Now I'm not saying this is okay, but man comes home. She says, where did you go? I went with my friends. You didn't tell me so-and-so's wife is going to be there. There's ladies there. Why are you going? Then maybe that bothers the wife. So now you made a problem between them, right? The parents, they have some business between each other, and you spread it among the children. It makes relations bad. You tell, for example, some past thing about your parents to the children of those people. These things happen. So there's endless examples in our families, unfortunately. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, تَجِدُونَ شَرَّ النَّاسِ ذَا الْوَجْهَيْنِ الَّذِي يَأْتِي هَؤُلَاءِ بِوَجْهٍ وَهَؤُلَاءِ بِوَجْهٍ وَمَنْ كَانَ ذَا لِسَانَيْنِ فِي الدُّنْيَا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلُ لَهُ لِسَانَيْنِ فِي نَارٍ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, you will find that the most evil of people is someone who is two-faced. They go to this person with this face, and then they go to that person with this other face. And then the rest of the hadith, I didn't translate it, is whoever has two tongues in the dunya, you talk to one group of people like this. Then when you're with these people, you talk like this. Allah will make for them 2 tongues in the hellfire on the day of judgment. Now, why do you think, what does two-faced have to do with this? What does it have to do with this? Two-faced, two-tongue. What do we mean? Give me an example.
There are many people in the world like that.
We know that, but what does it mean? What does it mean being two-faced?
Two-faced is to mean you're good to somebody, you're bad, kind of problem.
It's not.
Very pious and all that. You
No. That's what it is. It's not that you're one way and you're bad, really. What it means is, two-faced is you show one person one face and you show another person another face, and you're not honest about where you stand on an issue. It is a type of nifaq. Yeah, but it's not exactly nifaq. It's a type of nifaq, you could say. It's a type of nifaq, meaning a type of hypocrisy. Hypocrite. It's a type of hypocrisy. What it means is, it doesn't mean that you're not diplomatic. Like, for example, sometimes it happens, two people in the masjid are at odds with each other. I don't want to be at odds with either of them, okay? So I listen to both sides, one by one. And it doesn't mean, now, if I listen to them, I'm nice, I'm kind to both of them. I try to validate where they're right. Now, if I say to this person, you know what, you're totally right. That person is wrong. I'm on your side. And then I go to the other person and I say, you know what, you're totally right. I will support you against them. Don't worry. That is a two-faced person. Are you, you don't stand with truth. You stand with compromising your own morals in order to make everybody happy. Or you go to the Muslim community. Politicians do this all the time, right? You go to the Muslim community and you say, we care so much about Islamophobia. We're concerned for the community. We're going to listen to the community. And then those same people go to the Islamophobes and they say, yeah, we're with you. These Muslims are in big trouble. Don't worry, I've got them in my pocket. Is he a two-faced person? Yeah, but they're not even instigating anything. It could be instigating. But it may just be nobody knows where you stand on something. It's different if you decide to keep your opinion to yourself because you don't want to raise controversy. But as you say, you don't instigate or you don't make people feel like you're kind of goading each side on. This is the big problem, right? This doesn't mean now that anytime there's a sport and there's two people playing that you have to pick a side. I'm not talking about that. What I mean is where are your principles? Where do you stand on the issue at the end? This doesn't mean that you're not going to balance. Sometimes you have to balance. Sometimes you have to show, okay, you don't reveal everything you think to one person. Why? Because it's not going to solve the problem. So you're trying to mediate between two people. That's very different than you're changing your face here and changing your face here. That type of person, you can't trust that person. That's the problem. And they make you win their trust. They win your trust by acting like they're on your side, but you're really being deceptive. Now, the real deceptive thing is you think that they're on your side, so you tell them more and more and more, but they're using it to try to get favor with the other side, and vice versa. So they end up trying to come out on the top, and they like it when everybody else is in a little bit of a problem, right? So it's a very, very harsh warning that you'll have 2 tongues in hellfire for that reason. In fact, one of the things about a strong Muslim, now this can go too far. Being opinionated can be good and can be bad. One thing I notice about Muslims in general is that they often have strong opinions. This is good and this is bad. This is good in the sense that you know where they stand. At least they stand for something. Right? I actually admire sometimes when I see someone who has an opinion and they stand firmly on that opinion. Because I know exactly where you stand. And you've thought about this, but the problem with that, however, is sometimes, have you heard the term wrong and strong? It means it's always this person who is they become arrogant in their opinion now. They can't listen to anything else. So there's a good thing about being, sure of yourself. But then on the other side, you don't want to become arrogant. عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يبلغني أحد عن أصحابي شيئا فإني أحب أن أخرج إليهم وأنا سليم الصدر. The Prophet said, don't tell me anything about my companions. Don't convey things to me about them. For I want to meet them without disquiet in my heart. Salim al-Sadr. In other words, don't tell me bad things about people around me. I want to meet everybody with a clean heart. Okay? What happens is, what people would do, now of course the Prophet ﷺ, he's Rasulullah. Everybody comes to him to complain. Everybody comes to him. So you don't want to know everybody's dirt and garbage and dirty laundry. But if every time you have a problem, you go to somebody and you start saying, this person is a liar, this person yells at his wife, this person doesn't show up to work, this person, he parks in the wrong parking spot. Now, the Prophet is saying, look, everybody, you keep telling me things, but how do you face a person when you know that they have done something very wrong? It kind of ruins it for you. You know what I mean? You want to meet people, you don't want to, I'll be honest, I don't want to know anybody's faults here. I don't want to. I want to go to people and assume everybody's a good person. Everybody's a clean person. Because we're all sinners at the end of the day. Allah forgives, inshallah, all the sins. We all have faults. But if you start, the Prophet is trying to say, the more things that you know about people, their history, their faults, you cannot meet them with a clean heart. Because immediately, for example, you know somebody, okay, they failed their exams. Now you look at them and you don't think they're a good student. You're judging them immediately. Now this girl used to talk to a boy online before she got married. Now you look at this girl and you think she is not modest. You know, or this boy used to smoke or whatever. Now he's become okay. But in the mind, again, you have a judgment in the back of your mind. So you never give somebody 100% trust. You never give them 100% chance at anything. This is also part of tale-bearing. This is a result of people bringing stories. Now, the reason why the Prophet ﷺ is saying this, don't tell me anything about, don't convey anything about my companions, is different if it's a complaint. He said, لا يبلغني أحد عن أصحابي. Don't keep conveying things about people. Because it's very easy for people to make an excuse, because one of the reasons you're allowed to talk about someone else is when there is an interest, a Sharia interest. I'll give you an example. Some employee, let's say, some team member in the masjid is having a problem with another team member in the masjid. And they've come to me and they said, can I just talk about this and vent about this? They're talking. Now, I didn't want to know some of the things that happened between them and another team member, let's say, volunteers or something, you know. But now, what is their intention? If their intention is to bring down the other person, just try to make it so people don't like them, that person is doing namima. But what happens if the person is really seeking my advice? Here's the thing, will I ever truly know their intention? I can't. So I have to listen. This is the hard part. See, gossip is different. Gossip is, you know immediately it's slander, you can stop it. But somebody comes to you and says, something has happened to me and I want to talk about it. How am I supposed to say, no, don't talk about it? Now, I have lived in situations where these rules were taken so seriously that there was no space to complain. And what ends up happening when you do that is that there's no redress for wrongs that are done. So we cannot take these religious principles to the point where it boxes you in. You can't, for example, someone is being abused by a family member, okay? And they're being told, now if you talk about it, this is a sin because you're conveying information to somebody else. Just deal with it yourself, Allah will help you. You're stopping that person from getting help. Many people, many women in the community particularly, cannot seek help in their marriages because the men in the marriages are mistreating them, but they're all sensitive now. Oh no, in the masjid, the sheikh is going to know, the imam is going to know, and I'm going to like, how do you say it? Badnaam. You know, like I'm going to have, my reputation's going to be ruined. This is not namima if you are seeking help for something, right? So just a couple of facts. I'm going to translate this, okay? So namima is not necessarily limited to one form. I'm just translating as I'm reading. Rather, its definition means to reveal anything whose revelation would be disliked, whether it's from the person you're taking it from, or the person you are giving it to, or even a third person. Sometimes a third person will dislike why this is being said. And whether this is by saying it or by writing it, so just because you text message somebody doesn't mean it's okay, okay? Or it could even be by a symbol, okay? I'll give you an example. You're talking about somebody else on a chat, and you send LGBTQ symbol to the other person. You didn't say that person has struggling with some desires, but you revealed something about them to someone else, okay? Or ima. Al-ima means ishara. Like ishara means to make a, I'll give you an example. You know, you're talking about somebody, and oh yeah, you know, you're just talking, and then you say about another person, you say they're, what does that mean? Kanjus, bakhil, you're cheap. Okay? So even doing this, sin. You can't even make ishara of something like that, right? Or you say like, oh, you know, it means you smell bad, or something like that. So any type of, actually even this comes under gossip. You're not, you know, people do this one all the time. But this is actually more like ghiba. I'll give you the example though. People do this all the time. They say, oh yeah, you know this guy, you know this girl, you know, and then they'll imitate them. So if they have a limp, they'll walk like that. Or if they are a certain size, they will indicate that. This is actually haram to do. You can't say that. Yeah, you know the person walking around, they're like, you know, really short or something. If that person doesn't like it, you can't describe them like that. You know, if they don't like to be described by their height, by their weight, by their complexion, by their whatever it is, you should not be describing them like that, right? So that's something very important. And anything that conveys something that about someone else that people don't like, whether it is by your actions or by your speech, whether it is a bad thing or it could even be a good thing, but you just don't want people to know, okay? Because the reality of talebearing is to spread a secret and to tear down the curtain, the veil, between what you didn't want people to know about you. So let's say, for example, you, I don't know, maybe you earn a certain amount of money in your business, and you're a humble, quiet person. You don't want people to know that you make this much money or that you have this many investments. And then one of your friends goes and reveals it to everybody else. This is not a gossip. It's not a rumor. It's just true, but it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. You didn't want somebody to know that, you know? You know, somebody's spouse is very athletic. They're very beautiful. You're going and saying that to some third party. I don't want someone talking about my wife or your husband like that to another person, you know? So all those things. Now, what happens? A person, okay, you should actually be silent about whatever you observe about other people, okay? Unless there is a benefit to say it to other people, or you're avoiding some type of sin. So for example, you go inside, so the other thing people do is they go inside people's houses and they start looking around. Oh, this is very nice. Oh, that's very nice. Where did you get, oh man, this is so expensive. This is not the adab of a Muslim. The adab of a Muslim is when they go inside someone's home or someone's business, or even in their car, they keep their eyes low. Okay? And they go into the room that they are told to go to. Here, please sit down. They go in that room, not looking like this. Can I have a tour of the house? I don't know in your cultures, but in my culture, you have to go and give the person a tour of the house. And then you have to say, this is this bedroom, this is this bedroom, this is this bedroom. Like, I don't know why in our culture they do that. Ghar dikhao, like, oh, show me the whole house. And then you have to show everything. Now the problem is there's some areas you didn't want them to see, and then you go in the kid's room and he's got a poster up of some model or something, so you're like, right? So what happens? Oh yeah, then you go visit, oh I went to so-and-so's house, yeah, his son has a picture of a model and his poster on a, you know, whatever on the wall. This is something like private. You just revealed, oh, you know this person, they take pictures up on the thing and they put it up. Maybe some very, you know, oh, they're watching these movies. You don't talk about what people are doing. right? Oh, I heard music coming from their house. Doesn't matter. There's no benefit. Now, sometimes there's a benefit. Okay, sometimes there's a benefit. And sometimes you're averting a harm. Okay, so there could be many different scenarios. And then the other thing is, anything that is brought to you, anyone who's bringing namima to you, right? Anybody who says to you, hey, someone said such and such and such a thing about you. There are 6 things you should do. Now, this is a very big challenge. If someone comes to you and says, hey, you know your friend so-and-so, they're saying this about you. 6 things you have to do. And now, this is very difficult. Firstly is you don't believe them. Because someone who does namima is a sinner. And a sinner, their testimony is not accepted. So they're automatically, you just say, yeah, I don't believe you. No? Yeah. Oh. So the first thing you do is you don't believe them. Why? Because have you heard this saying? Anyone who brings stories to you can also take stories from you. People think that their friend is the one who brings all of the news to them and the gossip. Actually, that person is the most likely to gossip about you. It's just today they're happy with you. Tomorrow when they have a fight with you, everything that you reveal to them, they will take it and they'll take it somewhere else. That's why never be friends with a person who talks about other people. Because for sure you will be their target as long as you get on their bad side. And then sometimes as well, now you can't get on someone's bad side because, oh, she talks a lot. I just have, and then, you know what I mean? Now, so the first thing when someone brings you news that someone's talking about you is that you don't believe them. The second thing is you should tell them to stop and advise them and tell them, hey, this is not good. Okay? And then the third thing you should tell them, now, subhanAllah, this is the classical way. You should hate them for the sake of Allah, okay? Because Allah hates them. And hating someone for Allah is wajib. That's a really high level. If we don't know what hate for Allah does not mean hate for the nafs, okay? It does not mean you're hating someone's guts. So if we cannot understand this in our time, most people in our time do not know what it means to hate and love for Allah. It's not the hate and love that we have in our ego. So if you don't understand this part, it's better you just refrain. We are talking in a time when people were so religious and they were so on the deen that their disapproval was a correction for that person. Nowadays, it's not, you're just going to create a bigger problem. Right? You know, like it used to happen, like some Sahabi, like when somebody came up to Umar radiallahu anhu, said, oh Amir al-Mu'minin, I love you for the sake of Allah. He said, I hate you for the sake of Allah. He said, why? He said, because you do this, this, this. And the man said, okay, I'll stop doing it. Right? Now, if somebody like Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu tells you he hates you for the sake of Allah, what does it mean? It means it's not because I dislike you. You're doing something that's harming other people or that's wrong. I want you to stop it. And the person in those days of Islam, they were sincere. The type of people they're like, if something's wrong with me, tell me, I want to know. Nowadays, people just get offended. Oh, you hate me? I'm going to hate you back. It's a fight. Back then, people were like, oh my gosh, a pious person said this about me. I'm going to fix it. And they fix it. And then the person goes back to having that love. So love and hate for the sake of Allah is not the same as what we understand. The fourth thing, okay, but what it means is you should dislike, when you say you hate them for the sake of Allah, you hate that aspect of them, not their soul, but their action. So hate the sinner, not the sin, what is it? Hate the sin, not the sinner, right? We do the opposite these days. That's kind of how, it's not the same as what they're saying here. They're saying hate the sinner. But they mean to hate the sin that the sinner is doing. Does that make sense? I mean, remember we talked about this. The drunk man who was publicly drunk in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he asked the Sahaba, okay, give him a public beating as a way of getting him out of it. It's a punishment. And then when they made fun of him a little extra, they said something bad, he said, hey, don't say that, because he loves Allah and His Rasul ﷺ. So it shows you immediately, like you're sticking up for him. It means that it's not about the person. It's about the action you're trying to correct from the person, right? Same thing when you correct your child. You don't hate your child. You're trying to correct the bad habit. But if we are not careful in loving our child, the child will think that we dislike them. Same thing with the spouse, right? It's sometimes, many times, you might think that they hate you because you have not expressed enough love on the other side. So when you criticize, it just sounds like hate. Anyways, we're getting a different topic. Number 4, that you should not think bad about the person who they say said that thing about you. Okay, somebody comes to me and says, Abdullah said this about you. First thing is, I don't believe you. I'm not going to believe you. Next thing is, I'm going to tell them, don't say this. It's not good to make relations like this between people bad. The third thing is, I'm going to dislike the thing that they're doing, and I may avoid them if they're doing this more and more. The fourth thing is that I'm not going to believe Abdullah said anything bad about me. So I'm going to meet Abdullah completely clean-hearted. I'm not going to say, I know what you're saying about me. I have to say, okay, you didn't say anything about me. The fifth thing is, I don't take the news to anybody else. Hey, so-and-so told me Abdullah has been talking behind my back. I don't do that because then I'm spreading it. Or I don't try to spy and try to see if Abdullah is really talking about me behind my back. I'm going to investigate this. I don't investigate it. I said, leave it. Who cares? If he's talking about me, no, I don't think he's talking about me. And finally, sixth one. Allah yarda li nafsihi ma nahanna anhu fala yahki namimatahu. Yeah. And then you do not go and convey the fact that this person brought you the namima. So you don't go tell anybody else, hey, this person told me something bad about Abdullah, but he's doing namima, so I rejected it. Why? Because now you're spreading about that person too. Did we all understand? Yes. 6 things. Is there anybody among us who do you think can do this? It's very difficult. If somebody calls you and tells you that your greatest rival, the cousin that you've always been competing against, your person at work who you know they don't like you, somebody calls you and tells you this person's talking about you. Your ex is talking about you. Your friend, your enemy is talking about you. Oh, come on. Tell me, what are they saying? Tell me now. I'm going to ask them. And what do they say? I'm just telling you because I have to be honest, okay? That's what the person doing namima does. Yo, I'm just saying. I'm just being honest. I'm not making this up. Okay, I know you're not making it up, but you're boiling the rage between me and this other person now. So in reality, what these 6 things tell you, you know why it's so impossible to do these 6 things? Because our hearts are so invested in dunya. Someone whose life is Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Quran, prayer. Someone comes and says, hey, so-and-so, Abdullah said something bad about you. They say, I don't care. Okay, who cares? Yeah, sure.
You find out about a person like that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to do anything, but you don't want to be, guarded against this person that is.
This is the hard part.
Yeah.
Naturally speaking, you would have your guard up.
Yeah.
Like next time you're around that person, this is natural. The level they're talking about here, this is why I'm saying, if you can follow the major sins advices, you'll be like a wali of Allah. Honestly. Do you know who can go in front of somebody and you know this person is bad talking you, and then you just treat them completely with an open heart? Such an act of piety, you have to have a very sound heart. You can't have a disease in your heart. And actually these sins are called the diseases of the heart. And when you see someone who gets rid of these things, they become like a walking dawah. So many times, a person like that, when they, like let's say someone's been talking about you so badly, or maybe a family member, and then you interact with them with such a clean heart, actually the positive vibes can actually go into the other person's heart and make them have a tawbah. And then they come to you one day and say, I'm so sorry, please forgive me for whatever I did. I used to talk bad about you and you never held it against me. Mashallah, you always, I was the wrong one. And that is like the vindication of the pious person at the end. Okay?
It depends on the other side, because sometimes they will start saying, oh, he or she knows, and they are so hypocrite. They come and they pretend as if
Yeah, it happens. How many daughter-in-laws have just put up with what their mother-in-law was saying about them? Okay? And I've seen this myself. I've heard this myself. I haven't seen it, I've heard it. That the daughter-in-law, the mother-in-law treated them very badly. Now, every time you go in front of the mother-in-law, you had to act like none of this happened. And at the end of life, when the mother-in-law is on her deathbed, then she makes tawbah, and the only thing she wants to say is sorry to this daughter-in-law, admits all her faults. The thing is that the initial the initial feeling that you're sticking up for yourself, you sacrifice that. But your satisfaction comes way at the end when you realize your patience paid off. You didn't talk against that other cousin. You know they're backbiting you, you still invite them for Eid. Instead of saying, chalo, we're not going to invite these people in. They're talking about my daughter like this. You're not coming to our house. That is how everything divides. But the one is like, oh, yes, you're like they know, and you're still smiling in their face. Now, maybe they're being a hypocrite in front of you, but you're still treating them with open arms. It's a very high level of deen. What I'm trying to say is, the reason I'm saying it's very hard to do is because I find it hard to do this myself. Okay? I don't want to be a hypocrite. But let's aspire to this level. Right? Let's aspire to that. Means that no creation of Allah is harmed by us. Not even an ant, not even a whatever, not a person, nothing. So may Allah make us like this. I mean, just bury it when people do this. Okay, let's get to any questions before we move on. So we spent a lot of time on this because it's such a social issue, right? Oh, what happened here? That's okay, بالعربي عادي. Yeah. Oh. So Sadia Auntie said something very, very useful, very interesting. And alhamdulillah, it's something that only, this is something that's experienced, that when you have dislike in your heart or hate in your heart for another believer, it blocks your du'as from being answered. Okay? That's not something I have a hadith to show you. But there's no doubt that it clouds your connection, because Allah loves the believers. Even when they're sinning, Allah loves them. Allah loves us when we're sinning too. So when you hate someone who Allah loves, you're kind of blocking yourself from connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So it's a good point. Even Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, one day he was in a gathering and he said, whoever here has cut ties with a family member, do not keep sitting in my gathering, get up and leave and mend those ties. He says, why? Because so actually one person got up. No, nobody got up first. And then he kept on sitting down and he said, okay, I'm not going to go on. Anyone here who has cut ties with their family member, I want you to leave this majlis. Leave it. And come back only when you fixed it. And nobody got up. Finally, later on, someone got up. They went somewhere and they apologized to their family member and came back in the majlis. And the thing is that Abu Hurairah said that even if in the gathering there is one person who breaks family ties, that it stops rahmah from coming down on the entire group. Yeah. So Abu Hurairah, like this is getting into spiritual realm. How did he know this? How did he feel this? The pious people are blessed with these gifts. Okay, he could feel in this majlis there's something off about this. Like you said, something off. The people who have been devoted to Allah for a long time, it's very amazing. Any little thing, they just feel it. When they ate something and it's not halal, even when someone says it's halal, they just feel it. You know, my sheikh was saying, like once somebody fed him some food, and then he went back and he said, was this halal what you gave us yesterday? And the man said, actually, he didn't bother to make sure it's halal. And then he said, yeah, because me and my wife, both in our tahajjud, we felt something different in our tahajjud. So people at a very high level can feel that. So may Allah protect us, from hating another Muslim. It's really not a good thing. Where am I? I'm trying to get into this next. Yes. I know. Yeah. So this is another tough situation. If that person is like so you don't cut off, but that doesn't mean that you, just give me 1 second. There's a difference between taking space, healthy space, and cutting off. Do you see the difference? Cutting off means I don't talk to you anymore, no salam, no nothing. And taking space means I know how much to bring you in. Let's say you have a family member who openly does some sins. And look, with children, like maybe I can sit with somebody or you can sit with somebody like that, but you don't want your children to be exposed to these types of people. What do? Right? You can't cut them off. You don't want them in too far, too deep. So you keep kind of like arm's length distance without judging them. This is another thing that sometimes and without shunning them. So you have one brother who's difficult in the family. Does that mean you never invite this brother and you invite everybody else? Right? It depends how much harm there is in that. If he's abusive, maybe you have to take distance. If it's just like his personality is annoying, whatever, you have to put up with it. You know what I mean? The funny thing is, in the olden days, people used to put up with each other a lot. Now people have very little patience. Now the thing is, anybody who disturbs my peace, have you heard this term? Disturbing my peace. Your boundaries. But I've seen this now where it just means I cut off my in-laws. My boundaries means I don't even go visit them. And my parents, I put them like in, and I move away. And, literally you're just you and the internet, like you and TikTok. Because everybody upsets your boundaries. So we have to have some level of tolerance for other people. There's more reward. The Prophet said, the one who mixes with people and puts up with their harm is better than the one who isolates themselves and they just do good all the time. Because the social benefits of mixing with people, even though there's some harm, is still better than isolation. Isolation is when the devil gets you. Isolation is when shaitan gets you. Yeah, so alhamdulillah, this kind of like boundary talk and the disturb my peace talk, it's getting a little too much in the Muslim community. Little too much. Yeah. And this is another problem. I know, yeah. This is a big problem as well, right? Like, it's just getting to an extent where... Okay, an-niyaha wal-latam. Loudly lamenting the dead. Niyaha is loudly wailing. So here's what people used to do. In the past, when someone died, there's two things that used to happen. The person in their will would leave some money behind to hire professional mourners. Yes. To show that this person is a big person. Okay? So, so they used to hire professional mourners to follow the janazah mixed into the crowd. And what they would do is that their job is as they're actors, basically. They're actors. Start crying, and start hitting themselves. Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Why do they do this? Why would you hire someone to do this? Think about it. Why would you hire someone to do this? Yeah, so that people think, so that the crowd thinks this person was a very important person. His passing was noticed. His passing was felt. This is such a great person that now he left an impact. People are shaken by his loss, right? So people actually used to leave money in their will. Listen, I want people to make a big deal when I die. So, make sure there's the mourners are there. And I want them ripping their clothes and slapping their face and pulling out their hair, and they better be doing a good act. So that because what happens then? Everybody hears in the neighborhood, comes out, what's happened? What's happened? Oh my gosh, look at the scene. This person must have been somebody great. And so they want to be remembered in their death for the greatness of their life. Whatever. Like it's all ego. It's all thinking, what do people think? What will people say? But in a way that they want their memory to be, oh, that funeral was really sad. This idea like, oh my gosh, if the family isn't collapsing on the ground, then they don't really love their loved one. If you go to a funeral and you see, the family's quiet and they're just like, very, very controlled and composed, maybe you might get the impression that, like, are they even sad? But the problem that you don't realize is they're sad, but their sadness is taken to Allah. It's a different style of grieving. So the Prophet ﷺ is basically showing that, you know how like an iceberg, like 1/8 of the iceberg is floating on top of the water, 7/8 is underneath. The emotions of a believer are kind of like this. What people see should only be a small portion. These days in our weddings, right? We show that what should be hidden, we show. And how much real, genuine emotion is there? Maybe very little. So he proposed to me, oh my God, take the picture, oh my God, look. That is very, very, the pictures are there. But as soon as cameras off, turn away, you're at odds with this guy, So people they want to show emotion for other people. Whereas the mu'min is a bit different. Their happiness is muted and their sadness is muted as well. It's an understatement. Because what lies underneath is so much more. Okay, buddy, we know you love your wife now. Everybody knows it, right? But instead, make what people see small. But she should know under the surface what nobody sees. Then she should really feel it. But we do the opposite. So anyways, that's going into another direction. But loudly lamenting the dead. Loudly lamenting means to raise one's voice with wailing and mentioning the good traits of the dead. Oh, he was the greatest man in the world. He was the most generous. And then it also means to weep over the dead by mentioning their good traits, as we said. And the woman who loudly laments the dead will be punished, because in doing so, she orders other people to become despondent and impatient. And this is a contradiction to what Allah and His Messenger ﷺ have ordered. Okay? This is why, how long is the mourning period in Islam? 3 days. Somebody might say, that's so cruel. Like, people mourn longer than 3 days for their cat. Now you're telling me that, a parent passes away, child passes away. You're saying 3 days? You'll be mourning for the rest of your life. No, what we're saying is this. We're not saying the sadness will go away. Yaqub alayhi salam lost his son. He cried the rest of his life until he went blind. No one is saying you will not feel pain or grief. What it means is the show of it, or like you could say expressing it. Okay, we can understand. Somebody close to you passes away, and may Allah, protect us in the sense that everybody will pass away. Okay, we can't even say may Allah prevent from ever having a death in the family. Everyone's going to die. But we ask Allah for the strength and the patience. Strength to understand. But this doesn't mean. What this means is that you don't spend like a whole week and you don't pray and you don't eat. You're not taking care of yourself. There's a little window. Okay, we understand. You didn't eat. You didn't take care of yourself. But after that, Islam's giving you this guidance so you pull yourself together. And this is the amazing thing about the resilience of Islam. Now, somebody might say Islam is cruel, Islam is like this. No, Islam teaches you how to keep going. Now, one of the things about the niyaha, the problem with it is that it makes people fall into depression even more. Because when you have a hired professional, then what happens is you're encouraging the children as well to feel depressed. Instead of going to the children saying, okay, stay strong. Inshallah, your father was a good man. Inshallah, he'll be in Jannah. Now I want you to be strong. Your mother needs you. Instead of giving that message, you're giving the message of everybody cry and scream. And so what do you think, what kind of trauma you think that causes other people? You're encouraging them as well to become dissatisfied with the decree of Allah. Somebody you hired them and they're saying, why God did you take him so early? And we even said his untimely death, as though God snatched him away from us before his time. What right do you have to say that about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So Muslims actually teach composure. Now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when his son died, subhanAllah, he had his son when he was elderly, after many years. Okay, and subhanAllah, that son passed away. Ibrahim alayhi salam radhiyallahu anhu passed away, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he cried in the funeral. But what did he say? He said, "Al-ainu tadma, wal-qalbu yahzan, wa la naqul illa ma yurdi rabbana, wa inna bi firaqika ya Ibrahim lamahzunun." He said, so poetic. He said that the eye sheds tears, and the heart grieves, but we do not say except that which pleases our Lord. And O Ibrahim, we are extremely saddened by your parting. He told his son this in the funeral, and he said it out loud for people to hear, that I am going through pain, I am going through grief. It's not contradictory to your iman to feel sad at loss. Some people think, oh, you have weak iman. If you were a strong Muslim, you wouldn't question why this person left your life. No, heartbreak, loss, grief is part of the emotions we experience. But what do? We don't lose control. Imagine Yaqub alayhi salam. He lost his son. He disappeared in the desert and never came back. And he has a very strong feeling his own children did it to his own son. How do you stay patient like that? How do you stay patient living in the same house and raising these children without being biased against them? But his patience paid off. SubhanAllah, this is how a prophet is, right? Allahu Akbar. The smell of his son brought his eyesight back. Allahu Akbar. That's the most emotional part for me in the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ said, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَطَمَ الْخُدُودِ وَشَقَّ الْجُيُوبِ وَدَعَى بِدَعْوَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. Whoever slaps their cheeks, and it's kind of rhyming, that person is not from among us. Who slaps their cheeks and they rip the front of their clothing and then they start crying out with the cries of pre-Islamic ignorance. Why me? Why us? This is wrong. And in the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited Sa'd ibn Ubadah along with Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and Abdullah ibn Masud, three great Sahabi. Thereupon the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he cried. And upon seeing the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam crying, people also started crying. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, don't you hear? Allah does not torment the people because of the tears of their eye or the grief of their heart. Rather, He torments or bestows His mercy upon people because of the returns of this. And He pointed to the tongue. So He's trying to say you can be sad, but what you say is going to be held against you, right? Sometimes people get mad at God. Like, you lost something. I don't want to pray. I don't want to pray. He took this person from me. I don't want to see Allah. I don't want to talk about Na'udhu billah. I said, sister, brother, watch what you're saying. I don't want to go back to the mosque, okay? Why did it happen to my so-and-so loved one? How can this be happening in the world? How can a God be watching? Astaghfirullah, brother. This is you're coming to the point where this is kufr. People are saying this. So this happens. May Allah protect us. Next one is attacking. Let's see, anything else? Yeah. And also, there's two other examples where one woman in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, she was at the grave of her son. And she's crying and very, I guess, and the Prophet ﷺ came from behind her and told her, have patience and, I forget the exact hadith. And he basically told her to have some patience. And she didn't look at who was talking to her. And she said, you didn't go through what I went through, okay? To the near meaning. You don't know what you're talking about. You didn't go. So the Prophet just walked away. So he didn't say, hey, do you know who I am? He just, okay, she is in a state right now. Don't bother her right now. That's not the time to start correcting people. Okay. Later on, somebody went to the lady and said, that was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam behind you. The lady was so worried. She ran to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Oh Rasulullah, I didn't know it was you. He said, innama sabru fi sadratil ula. He said, patience should come at the first strike, meaning the first calamity. That's the time to be patient. So when you heard this thing that upset you, that's the time to be patient. When the calamity struck you, that's the time. So understanding these teachings helps someone. And that. from doing things that are beyond what the deen says.
Okay, but we can still cry and mourn.
Yeah, because there are some practices in some religions where, look, in the religion I came from, husband dies, it's expected a woman jumps on top of his funeral pyre. Listen, this was not like a one-off thing. This was a religious concept, right? That and obviously men die usually before their wives. Just by statistically, many times it happens. So because of the women tend to live a little longer than men. Men die from war. Men die for disease, injuries, more, whatever it is. So it was when the husband is being cremated, then the woman would feel like, what am I going to do in the world without him now? And jumps on the funeral pyre. But it's because also everybody's telling her. I mean, I don't want to flip into my bad Hindi, but now what are you going to do? Now this dunya has nothing for you. Now you're going to be alone. So they put her all these thoughts in her mind to prepare her, to make her seem like this dunya is just not worth it. So what does she do? She goes and she jumps on herself. They're not pushing her. She's jumping on because she says, I'm going to be nothing. So I know...
There was a culture of sati, right?
Sati, yeah. My friend's grandmother, when I used to say, I saw her pictures in the photo album, I said, why does she have a shaved head all the time? He said, because as soon as her husband passed away, her in-laws shaved her head permanently. So it's like this idea that your life is going to be miserable now. If you're going to live, you're going to live like a slave in your in-laws' house. Never remarry, never do this, never do this. So
Does this still happen?
it's illegal. So does it still happen? I don't know if it still happens. But if you were to try to push someone to do that, you would go to jail. Remember I told you guys what the English, first of all, Aurangzeb, rahmatullahi, he banned it. Okay? But he was not harsh in banning the Hindu practices. It's one of the British generals, not Dyer, one of them, I forgot who it was, one of the British generals who colonized India, Pakistan area, he said, you people have a culture and we have a custom. Your custom is to push a woman onto the fire when her husband passed away. Our custom is to hang you if you do that. So you do your custom, we'll do our custom. That's what he said. And it stopped. Right? That's how you stop something, right? So, mashallah, that's the one good thing. Unfortunately, that's also spilled into Muslim Indian and Pakistani culture too. Right? And this is a very big crime. Very big crime. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ, almost all the people he married were either divorced or widowed. So what does it say? There's no decrease in status at all, but we're ignorant of Islam. Now, the last thing I'll mention is there was one woman who was told that your son has died in battle, and she came out in full parda. So the people asked her, you heard this news and you still took the time to put your hijab and you put your niqab and everything? She said, I lost my son. I didn't lose my modesty. Okay, that's a high level. I'm not saying everybody can do that, but you understand this idea that I'm not gonna go out of my norm for this. That's the idea of control, right? May Allah protect us. Alhamdulillah. So the next thing, we'll go on. Attacking another person's ancestry. At-ta'an fil ansab. What this means is, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ثنتان في الناس هما بهم كفر الطعن في الأنساب والنياحة على الميت. There are two qualities of the people which reflect disbelief. Attacking another person's ancestry and wailing over the dead, meaning it's something that people used to do in Jahili times. So we talked about wailing over the dead. What does attacking another person's ancestry mean? It means you say, oh, your great-grandfather, he was the coward who did X, Y, Z. Everybody knows. Oh, your grandmother, she was the one, nobody liked her. It could be individual people talking bad about people's parents. It could be, oh, do you know what family these people come from? I remember once I was mediating a dispute in Hyderabad, India, between a husband and a wife, and the guy's parents had a problem with the girl's parents. And the guy's parents, they were for some reason, and I'm not saying this only about Hyderabadis, but maybe Muslims in the subcontinent in general, there's some strange myth that we are like foreign people. Hum Arab se aaye. We're from Arabs. We are Persians. We are Arabs. We are Turks. And they said, oh, those people, wo to local log hain. Like this. They are local people. Meaning you're just like this is what they're trying to say. You're just the local dark Hindus who converted, and we are from the Arab. Even like one person came from the Arab, and in your whole line for 1,000 years, now you think you're from somewhere else, okay? And this is attacking someone's ancestry. This is what they were doing. Exactly what they're saying. You are local converts, even though you've been Muslim the same amount of time. Or you're trying to say that caste also comes into this. Now, Muslims are not supposed to have caste, okay, baradari. But saying, no, sheikh girl seeking sheikh groom, like this is actually a type of caste. Okay? Yeah. Now, here's the only exception with Sayyid. The only exception with Sayyid is that there is a virtue in being a Sayyid, because you cannot take zakat. So there is actually a ruling on this. But what this does not mean is that you think you're better than someone else, number one. This does not mean that you put other people down. But like, let's say, for example, a Sayyid, he wants to preserve his ancestry back to Rasulullah. So he says, we want to marry our girl to a Sayyid. It is very common, even among the Arab Sayyids, that they only married among each other. Okay? So there is kind of, there's an extreme on both sides. On one extreme, you act like these people are better than everybody else. So they used to have in India, in traditional in Muslim India, this idea of the ashraf and the ajlaf. Anybody heard of this? So there were, even among Muslims, the ashraf were like Mia, Sheikh, Mirza, those people. And the ajlaf were all the people on the bottom. So you knew from people's last names that you people know better than me, right? Oh, like you guys are Quraysh, you guys are Ansari, you guys are this, they're the Kasai log, and they're the this log, and they're the butchers, and they're the loha wale, and they're like whatever. I've heard all these things. Okay, I don't know you guys know more details than I do. But people put people down based on, oh, you're from the butcher class of people. You're the tailor people. And in reality, in Islam, there's none of this. You can have a tribe, but you cannot attack someone on their ancestry. Okay? Any questions? No. Now, do Arabs do this? They do this, but much less. So they do say, oh, we're from Bani Hassan, we're from Bani Saqar, we're from the big tribes. So of course, this is from the Arabs, right? But for some reason, the Indo-Pacs really made it, like they really excelled, because they brought it over from the Hindus quite a bit. Because in the Hindu system, you are stuck in a certain caste for your whole generation. Like you cannot move up, you cannot move down, right? Okay, excess against others, al-baghi. What is this? Allah says, إِنَّمَا السَّبِيلُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يَظْلِمُونَ النَّاسَ وَيَبْغُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Blame is only on those who wrong people and transgress in the land unjustly. It is they who will suffer a painful punishment. So baghi is it means anything where you go too far in something. Okay? You go too far in oppressing people. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ أوحى إلي أن تواضعوا حتى لا يبغي أحد على أحد ولا يفخر أحد على أحد. Allah has inspired me or revealed to me that you people should be humble towards each other, such that no one transgresses, meaning crosses the line against another person, nor exalts himself above another. So there's so many different ways that this can happen, right? I'll just give you some example here. So where is this? So baghi means to exceed the proper limits. And this could mean, for example, thinking that you're better and then treating other people worse. It usually happens when there is a power imbalance. Okay? So for example, you have an employee and they are very poor. And so you decide to reduce their salary, and they don't have any choice but to accept it because they don't have another job. You're squeezing them, squeezing them, squeezing them. Okay? Technically, you're the boss. Can you lower a person's salary? Yes, you can. Or, for example, you know they're working really hard. And then you add on more work until they're, instead of 40 hours, now you put them to 50 hours, same pay. 60 hours, same pay. Do we have examples of this? Of course. You see businesses where, you're hired for an 8-hour day, but you're expected to come in early and leave much later. And right as soon as it's time to leave, your boss comes, puts more work on your desk, just so you stay. Now, if you say anything, you're fired. Get out. So this is a kind of power imbalance. It's transgressing beyond the limits. It also means, for example, here's examples. What's that, sorry? Sorry? Yeah. So for example, it's normalizing injustice, and it's corrupting a social order, and you start to squeeze people, right? And this leads to fighting, this leads to bloodshed, this leads to rebellion, right? So here's examples. Now, there's a difference between, so for example, a ruler confiscates property unlawfully. A ruler says, I want this house. Sell me this house. And the person says, no, I live in this house. I built this house. I don't want to sell it. He says, I want to build my plaza here. You have to empty this house. He says, no, this is my property. The ruler says, I'm taking it anyway. That's crossing over a limit, right? That's crossing over a limit. Husband, okay, systematically always dominating over his wife, coercing her, silencing her. You can't go outside. You can't do this. You can't talk to anybody. Don't call your relatives. This is an example of baghi, transgressing the norms, okay? So is there any? So a lot of these are going to be very similar to each other. Next, any questions about that? Next one, al-khuruj bis-sayf wa takfir bil-kaba'ir. What it means is armed rebellion, armed insurrection or armed rebellion, and considering Muslims to be unbelievers because of sins that they do. It's very interesting that Imam Al-Dhahabi is talking about this hundreds of years ago. Okay, 800 years ago. But does this happen today? Of course it does. Where? These terrorist kind of radical types, when they think, do you think that you can go to a Muslim country and blow up a nightclub? Can you do that? Absolutely not. You can't do that. You can't. Oh, those people are all sinning. They're bringing haram to this blessed land of Islam. The land of Tawheed is being violated in front of us. That's what they say. Therefore, all these people are following the ways of the kuffar. Therefore, they have left Islam. And therefore, somehow they make this jump again, even if they were non-Muslim, that we can do this. And you saw these types, these radicalized types that began to think that you can like attack a wedding party because there is music or the women are not wearing hijab or something like this. What gives you the right to do that? Major sin to consider Muslims unbelievers. Even if they were all drinking alcohol and doing zina right there, you still could not say they're non-Muslims. You would say, yes, what they're doing is haram. This must stop. You can protest. You can tell the ruler, shut these things down. We don't want to see this. You can go there and you can make a noise and tell them not to do that. But you can't start taking it into your own hands, let alone calling them disbelievers. Now, part of the reason that this goes together, khuruj bis-sayf means you take the sword out on your ruler. You go against your government. Oftentimes, religious groups, they become so radicalized that they go against their government, because all governments are kind of like corrupt a little bit. So then they start saying, oh no, we should be ruled by Islam. And you, look what you do. You don't even pray. You mingle with the non-Muslims. So now they declare their ruler to be a non-Muslim. Can you imagine? The first group to do this, who are they? The Kharijites or Khawarij. The Khawarij, they tried to assassinate Sayyidina Ali and Sayyidina Muawiyah and Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As on the same day, because all those three people were rulers. And at one point, Ali and Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, when Ali was Khalifa and Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, who was the son of Abu Sufyan, he was the ruler, he was kind of the governor of Syria, and they fought a war with each other because of their disagreement, their misunderstanding, I should say. And in the end, they decided, why don't we do arbitration? Come to a peace agreement. the Khawarij used to be part of Sayyidina Ali's army. They were a very religiously devout group within the army, like a kind of a Jamaat or Jama'ah, a group. And when they heard that Sayyidina Ali did not fight and kill the other side, they said, no, you should have fought and killed them. He said, what? This is another Sahabi. There's a misunderstanding, disagreement. There are brothers. He said, Ali radiallahu anhu said, there are brothers, but they have basically been on the wrong side. We want peace. And the Khawarij, that group said, no, you cannot negotiate with them. They fought against the Muslims. They are disbelievers now. They committed a major sin. And he said, what do you want? He said, subhanallah. Sayyidah, at one point, there was a confusion, a fitna that took place, and even Sayyidah Aisha, at one point, there was a confusion, and she actually came out against Sayyidina Ali. And they stopped that war. Sayyidina Ali, mashallah, with total respect, he made sure that she was secure, and the army turned around, and he sent her for Hajj. He explained the situation to her, and everything calmed down. The Khawarij they said, no, you have to take them captive. He said, would you take the wife of Rasulullah, your own mother, as a slave? Because the Khawarij, they said, oh no, these are non-Muslims. He said, what's wrong with you people? The wife of Rasulullah is on the other side, Sahabi on the other side. So the problem with these people, then they said, Ali, because you did not do that, now we will assassinate you. And they did assassinate him. They killed him. Such a great Sahabi. One of the greatest men to ever walk the face of the earth, of the Muslimin. So this is why that trend has not stopped. Radicalization and this type of shaitanic thing has not stopped. What are the hadith? Some of the hadiths about them are chilling, actually. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fight in the way of Allah, those who fight against you, but do not transgress. Indeed, Allah does not love the transgressors. You don't go too far. If you have to defend yourself, you don't go too far, right? Sometimes it happens, unfortunately, two Muslim countries fight each other. Those are brother fighting against brother. First of all, you shouldn't be fighting. And if it happens, you don't try to justify the other side as non-Muslim. Oh, you go and you rape and you pillage and plunder. Unfortunately, this happened in history. I'm not going to give examples, but very, very shameful examples of this in recent history and past history. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if someone says to his Muslim brother, you kafir, then one of them deserves the name. Meaning, if you call your Muslim brother a kafir, and he's not a kafir, it means you are a kafir. Okay, because you're considering another Muslim a kafir. So the Prophet ﷺ, he also mentioned, he talked about the people who will come out at the end of time, or later on after that. There are many different hadiths. And he said the Khawarij, they are people. He said deen passes through their heart like an arrow passes through its target. Wherever you find them, kill them. The Prophet gave a hadith already. When you find these types of people, Khawarij, fight them. Don't give them any quarter. Don't say, oh, there are Muslim brothers. They're allowed to. This is why Muslim governments are so harsh on these terrorist types. And they have to be. The Prophet was saying. Now, why is it that the deen passes through their heart like an arrow passes through the target? Why do you think he said that? They're not really religious people. They are using religion sometimes politically, or they are using it as a power ego trip. If you tell these types of people, calm down, pray in a corner for the rest of your life, read Quran, no, we have to solve the world's problems. We have to do this, we have to do that. They don't want to be religious in the real way. This is why, what happens when they get a hold of the women from the other side? Rape. How is that an Islamic thing to do? I thought you were a religious guy. You know, why are you going around shooting random people? You see what I'm saying? So they use religion in a way that is wrong. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, the deen passes through their hearts. SubhanAllah, one of my teachers is a mufti in Jordan, Sheikh Amjad Rashid. He was asked to speak to these radicalized youth who were, back in 2010 and whatever, they went to the neighboring countries, those people. So he had to counsel them in the jail in Jordan. And he said, he debated them about what is true Islam, your ideology or the balanced view of Islam. He said, do you know what happened after I debated them and I won and I showed them what real Islam is? Do you think they came back to true Islam? they left religion altogether. They became atheists. He said, why? Because they weren't in it for the real reason. And they realized in the end, they don't really believe. They're just hyped up by political grievances, and the political Islam has become the language that they use. Do you know that this political style of radicalized Islam has killed more Muslims, sometimes than even non-Muslims? SubhanAllah, more Muslims have died from terror attacks on other Muslims. How does this make any sense? Right? So this is the confusion. This is why education is so important. And sometimes even when scholars in Muslim countries speak out against it, they're assassinated too. Right? So, subhanAllah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, those people, meaning the Khawarij, he says when they are killed, they are the most evil of killed people on the face of this earth. And the ones who they kill are the best of people who are killed, because you're killed unjustly. Right? So that's what he said. They're victims. And he said these people are the dogs of fire. He called them the dogs of fire. So subhanAllah. We can go on, but alhamdulillah. Okay, any questions? Okay. Next one is Adhiyat al-Muslimin. We'll go on for a few more minutes. Adhiyat al-Muslimin wa shatmuhum. Hurting or reviling Muslims. Now it's getting very, very fine now. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بِغَيْرِ مَا اكْتَسَبُوا فَقَدْ احْتَمَلُوا بُهْتَانًا وَإِثْمًا مُبِينًا. As for those who abuse the believing men and women, who have not done anything to deserve it, they will definitely bear the guilt of slander and a huge sin, a blatant sin. And the Prophet ﷺ says, وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. Do not spy on another. Do not backbite one another. Would any of you like to eat the flesh of their dead brother? You would despise that. And fear Allah. Surely Allah is the acceptor of repentance and most merciful. So now this is getting to a point where anything you do to hurt another Muslim, shatam is to insult them. Okay? The Prophet said, the Muslim is the brother of the other Muslim. He does not oppress him. He does not hang back from coming to his help. He does not belittle him. It is sufficiently evil for a person to demean their fellow Muslim. So you look at the person, you say, wow, low-class person. Look how this person is. They're so dumb. They're so cheap. They're so simple-minded. Anytime you insult another Muslim or you hurt their feelings, you're committing a major sin. Or it could be a major sin. Any questions? And the subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the most evil people in the eyes of Allah is one whom other people avoid because of how obscene they are. The bully, the one who throws their weight around. That's the most evil person. If people avoid you because of your bad qualities, you're the most evil person in the eyes of Allah. Allah hates, the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who is obscene and mouthy. These people who are mouthy all the time to other people. They're swearing at everybody, so you avoid them. You don't want to be near them. Okay. And then he said that that servant of Allah will not enter Jannah whose neighbor is not free from his harm and his evil. So if your neighbor is not free from your harm, Allah says, the Prophet says, you'll not even enter Jannah. Yeah, what it means is like, sometimes you harm your neighbors. You're playing music so loud, it's waking up their kids in the night. Your garbage is all over their lawn. You know, you're smoking and you're doing things that's upsetting and disturbing them. You're not cooperative with them. You're fighting with them, and they're scared to come out because our neighbor is so all these things. Okay, let's see now. We're almost done. And there are many different examples, but I won't be able to give all of them, but a lot of them have to do with your neighbors. So, alhamdulillah. The Prophet ﷺ said, when he was taken up to heaven, and he was shown some of Jahannam, he says, I passed by a group of people who were scratching their faces with long nails made of iron. They were scratching their faces, right, bleeding. And I said, who are these people, O Jibreel? And he said, they are people who used to backbite against people and insult the people's reputation. So the Prophet said, from the major sins is for a person to curse his own parents. So they said, Ya Rasulullah, who would curse his own parents? He says, well, you insulted somebody else's parents, so then they started to insult your parents. So this is another one. You start saying mother insults about somebody, they're going to give mother insults about you, about your mom. So now your mother is being called a swear word because of something stupid you said to somebody, right? So you should have avoided this, right? And the last one for today is harming the friends of Allah Most High. Adhiyat awliya illahi ta'ala, harming these saints and going against them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say? He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُمْ عَذَابًا مُهِينًا. Surely those who offend Allah and His Messenger are condemned by Allah in this world and the hereafter, and He has prepared for them a humiliating punishment. Wait, where are we here? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. Wait, where's the actual? Oh, sorry, I put the wrong verse in there. Subhanallah. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بِغَيْرِ مَا اكْتَسَبُوا فَقَدِ احْتَمَلُوا بُهْتَانًا وَإِثْمًا مُبِينًا. I just read that one on the previous one. Okay, I must have mixed up the slide. Anyhow, Allah says, whoever harms the believing men and the believing women for nothing that they did, then they have carried a great slander and a sin. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that Allah says, مَنْ عَادَ لِي وَلِيًّا فَقَدْ آذَنْتُهُ بِالْحَرْبِ. Whoever shows enmity to a wali of mine, then I have declared war on that person, or I have come out to fight that person. Now I'm just going to give you one story. As we told you, the awliya are people whom Allah loves. They are special select servants. All of the Muslimin are the awliya of Allah in the general sense. So if you're Muslim, you are a friend of Allah in the general sense. That's called the wilaya amma, the general wilaya. Then there's the wilaya khassa. They are the saints among the Muslims whose hearts are so close to Allah, Allah has taken them as a friend and the other people don't know. Some people, maybe you know, because they spent their whole life worshipping Allah, so you think, we don't know. Other people are hidden. Other people, they look normal, but their heart with Allah, Allah loves them. Now, if some people, they used to, good people, some people have a sickness in the heart where they like hating on people who are good. You know what I mean? So they see a scholar who is very pious, he's loved by other people, so they get jealous and they start to try to attack that scholar, for example, or the great saint, one of the great Sufis, one of the great worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once it happened that when Abu Sufyan became a Muslim, when he just became a Muslim, after fighting the Muslims for so many years, Suhaib al-Rumi, Salman al-Farisi, and Bilal, radiallahu anhu, the three foreigners of the Sahaba, they were sitting down, and when they saw Abu Sufyan pass by, and he had just become Muslim, they said a comment to him. They said, it looks like the sword of Allah did not get its share of you, to Abu Sufyan. Because they were really upset that you killed so many, you're responsible for the death of so many Muslims. Now you become a Muslim, so they were hurt. They were like, now he became Muslim. So they said, looks like the sword did not get you. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu scolded them and said to them, he said, are you saying this to the leader of Quraysh? Like, he's a big person. He is a big man. He's become a Muslim. How can you speak like this to a leader, right? And then the Prophet ﷺ was told that Abu Bakr scolded the three very simple, humble Sahaba. And he said, oh Abu Bakr, he says, these people, if you get them angry, you make your Lord angry. Those three people, Suhaib al-Rumi, Bilal, Salman, they were former slaves, very simple Sahabi. They don't have any tribe, but they love Allah and His Rasul ﷺ. And this is the hadith he's bringing, that the poor people of the Muhajirin, if you make them angry, then Allah will get angry with you. What it means is for the sake of deen. Okay? So any questions about that before we go? Ibrahim? Okay, yes. He is the biggest wali. The Rasul ﷺ is the biggest wali. Yes. Okay, this is interesting. The Prophet ﷺ, if he forgave them, they became Muslim. Then they were forgiven. But one thing that you notice, anybody who really did a dirty action to the Prophet ﷺ, like a low action, actually they all died. Allah didn't spare them. The people who fought against him in a general manner, they became Muslim. Abu Sufyan became a Muslim. Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl became a Muslim. Khalid bin Walid was fighting against the Muslims. He became a very great Muslim. But they were not low people. They fought on principles, right? Even Hind, the wife of Abu Sufyan, who ordered for Hamza's stomach to be cut open, she bit his liver. Even she came and the Prophet ﷺ forgave her, right? And the man who killed his uncle Hamza, Wahshi, who killed Hamza, he said, become Muslim, but please don't come into Medina. Don't come in front of me because I get sad every time I see you. So just live on the outskirts. But he forgave him. He forgave him. But those people who would try to, do dirty things to the Prophet ﷺ, very low things, Allah made them die very horrible deaths. Right? Now this doesn't mean that someone can claim someone is a wali and then you can't say anything, you can't disagree with them. There's other people misuse this. So now they say, my sheikh is a wali, and he can touch any woman he wants because he's so pious. No. He can yell at anybody he wants because when he yells, it's the anger of Allah. No, no, no. A wali is a person who follows the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The minute that person is not following deen, we don't even say that person is a wali for sure. Like I have my suspicions, who's a wali, who's not a wali. I do, but you don't go say like, okay, now everybody has to know, this is a wali. So now you have to treat him special. No, you just get this idea. Like they spent their whole life worshipping Allah. They have nur on their face. You never heard anything bad about them. Maybe they're a wali of Allah. So you ask for their dua. That's what you do. How do you treat the awliya? You ask for dua. Back in Jordan, the way that they do in the Arab world, you think someone's a wali of Allah, you kiss their hand. Obviously if you're a man, kiss a man out of respect. And you ask for their dua. That's it. You respect them. Question, Sayyid parents, on the issue of their daughters getting married, they're ready to give the hand to the daughter to a corrupt Sayyid rather than to a non-Sayyid. What is the ruling on this issue? No. This thing about marrying Sayyids is not such an important thing that you would rather give your daughter to a fasiq, like a corrupt Sayyid, than to a religious, proper man. In fact, that you would even give your daughter's hand to someone she doesn't want to marry at all. It may even be a good Sayyid. Okay? But if your daughter doesn't want to marry somebody, don't get her married to that person. It's a very obvious, basic thing. Why? Because especially in our time, you're basically setting your daughter up for divorce. Because she's married to somebody she doesn't want to be married to. So why would you want to do that to her? It's a type of oppression. Right? It's a type of oppression. So I hope that answers the question that no, this thing about marrying between Sayyids should not be so strong that you cannot go outside of it. It is just a very nice and good thing to continue the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, not that it's a requirement. Because otherwise, the Prophet ﷺ, he married many people who are not from his lineage, and they married people who are not from their lineage too, right? That makes sense? Yes?
Can you comment on talking about harming awliya? Can you comment a little bit about people, for example, like myself or like laymen, basically going on like WhatsApp groups or Instagram and talking about the shuyukh? Because this is very common nowadays. Not that I'm saying like all the shuyukh are awliya, maybe they are, but just as a general rule of thumb, like is that something that's permissible or?
No, see, this is another thing. They say that's a very good question about people backbiting the scholars. See, now it's become this common thing where you can just talk about scholars and their business. And the common people are just like backbiting. This is actually very wrong. In fact, they say that luhum al-ulama masmoom. They say the flesh of a scholar is poisoned. If you eat the flesh of the scholar, you will get poison in your heart. What it means is backbiting somebody is eating their flesh. Okay? So therefore, you should be careful about backbiting any Muslim, especially the scholars. It's so disgusting if I ever heard somebody saying something bad about Dr. Siddiqui. Like when I hear this, somebody wants to complain about him from something that happened in 1980s or 1990s. And, the person who's complaining is old, is elderly, so I have to be a little bit it's disgusting. You're backbiting someone. Now, I'm not saying it happens all the time, but sometimes someone you have to say, you have a problem in your heart if you're talking about a big alim like this. You know what I mean? Now, sometimes it happens that you have a disagreement with this person for a legitimate reason. It doesn't mean you cannot criticize scholars. What it means is you don't sit there and backbite about them. Oh, you can say, for example, yeah, I disagreed with the fact that he scolded this kid in the madrasa. I didn't think this was right for the scholar to do it. Okay, bring it to the board, bring it to something. But you don't go and you say, and you know what? His wife is also like this and his children are like this too. Like this is getting beyond the professional level. So anytime you hear people backbiting scholars or religious people or whatever, run. Because you don't know that any of those, maybe Allah loves them in a certain way. And you just, Now the thing is, people did used to harm the awliya. For example, sometimes a sultan or like one of the kings would have a lot of hate for some of the awliya because the people used to love the awliya. So the king would say, how come people aren't coming to my court? How come they're all going to this masjid of this person to kiss his hands? How come they're not coming kissing my hands? So he would try to, out of jealousy, try to get that wali to come to my palace and you kiss my hand in front of everybody. And sometimes that wali would say, I'm not coming to a corrupt king's court. I don't want to do that. And so then it would turn into, oh, that's it. We're going to hunt this guy down now. And we're going to publicly torture him. We're going to take away all of his family's possessions. So this is the whole thing. The Prophet ﷺ knew that at time governments, they jail the scholars. Right? Now you have to go to every scholar. You have to say that what I'm doing is correct. Otherwise you're in jail and we kill you and we kill your family. So this is the warning. They could be the awliya. Whoever harms a wali of mine, Allah will declare war on that. The funny thing is, not the funny thing, the real thing is, those types of rulers, they often meet a very nasty death. Meet a very nasty death. Sometimes rebellion, people tear them apart limb from limb. Sometimes it happens, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they grow old and they die, but what's in the hereafter could be much worse. Right? So, subhanAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and protect us. Inshallah, now, right, 2 minutes before 9 o'clock. Any questions before we finish? Okay. So, next week is the 25th, and we don't celebrate Christmas, of course, but I think that people want to take a break. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay. And the week after that is New Year's. You can do New Year's, just don't go too far, because it's not a religious thing. So, but do you want to take 2 weeks off? Okay. So I will take 2 weeks off, inshallah. And then we will come back, on the 8th. Now, here's the thing. I really wanted to end this class in this year. I wanted to finish it. But that means we're going to have to go for month of January. And then, inshallah, month of February, we will begin a new book. And I will take your recommendation. We don't have to make it so long. We can actually do shorter books. Maybe a chapter from this book, a chapter. Oh, it's Ramadan. Wait, let's see.
On 18th of
Yeah. Oh, 18th of, yeah, you're right. Okay, then we can do something on preparing for Ramadan, for example. Okay, or what I might try to do is I might condense the information now, so we finish faster. We get maybe a month to work on Ramadan, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Have a very safe time, inshallah. Keep us in your du'as. Nothing in Ramadan except fasting and Taraweeh, inshallah.